chair, and as I did so, I could not help but think what a great day we had just had. As I sat down, Grandpa A.T. opened my can of Pepsi and Snickers candy bar, and I could still hear him saying, "Here you go, Boo." That day had been so much fun. I got to fish by myself for the first time. Well, as much as by myself as a 3.5-year-old can. Now, normally whenever we go fishing, I chicken out as soon as the minnows started wiggling on my line. And I'd end up watching from the sideline, playing with the minnows that were in the bucket, just like me and Paige used to do at the babysitter. But not that day. That afternoon, this toddler was bound and determined to make my grandpa, uncle, and daddy proud. As we packed up the truck with our fishing poles, minnows, tackle boxes, and coolers full of snacks, of course I had my stupid fishing pole all loaded up and ready to go. So when we got to the pond, we unloaded our things and started to make the trek towards the edge of the water. Now this posed the first challenge of the day. I was deathly afraid that I was going to fall in the water, but Grandpa A.T. grabbed my hand, led me toward the edge of the bank, and said, "Don't worry, Boo, I gotcha. You're not going anywhere." As he baited my hook and helped me cast my reel out, I had this gut feeling that I was about to surprise all of them. After what seemed like hours of waiting, which is probably only a matter of 5 minutes, I felt my life full. This is it, here we go. I started yelling for Grandpa to come over to see what I'd caught. And let me tell you, I'm sure glad he came over fast, because that little fish put up a big fight. Everyone was so proud that I'd caught my first fish without chickening out. And Grandpa was even so proud of me, and I can still hear him saying, "This is all yours, Boo, you go get him." So, what was even more exciting to me though, was that I had made the master fisherman of the family proud. Every time Grandpa would come back from his fishing trip, he would have more crappies than we knew what to do with. Not only was he a master fisherman though, no. He was a master hunter and farmer, and best of all, storyteller. Every time I was over at Grandpa A.T. and Grandma Dodo's house, we would lie on the couch and he would regale me with stories of his hunting and fishing trips and teach me about so many things he was doing on the farm. As if it was an unwritten tradition of ours, we would always end up at the kitchen table with our signature Pepsi and Snickers, but what sticks in my mind and my heart the most is his voice. And those memories are priceless. We all have those moments and memories that will forever be in our hearts. Maybe they're from when you were a kid at your grandparents' house. Maybe they're with your best friend, or maybe it's with someone you've only met one time. Now, I had one of these moments happen to me this past fall during chapter visits. At the end of each visit, I would pass out a goal card. And all these goal cards, on the inside, there was a place to write short, mid, and long-term goals. Now, as I was cleaning up the materials for one of these visits, a boy in the class came up to me and asked if he could talk to me privately for a second. He was timid and confident all at the same time. He was so sure of what he wanted to tell me, but he was unsure to share that in front of his peers. He was a typical sophomore in high school. Nothing striking, but he stood out to me. So of course I said sure. We walked a few steps away from everyone else. With a tad bit of hesitation, he said, "Now, I didn't want to be the only one to raise my hand and say something like this and get laughed at." He then went on to tell me that he wanted to join the armed forces and serve our country because he wouldn't be judged there. He then went on to tell me that all he wanted to do is make a difference. He paused and he said, "Courtney, now you can't laugh at me either, but there's only one long-term goal I could think of that even matters. I just want to be somebody. I just want to be remembered." He then went on to tell me that he felt as if no one in his family had done anything with their lives that was something to be proud of. And he was going to be the first, even if only a single person remembered him for what he did with his life. How many of us have been so sure of what we want to do, but we were unsure to share that with our friends? Throughout junior high and high school, I was constantly overwhelmed with what my friends and classmates thought about me. And to this day, I have to push myself to look past that, because after talking with that young man and seeing how amazing it is to have the courage to speak up and why it's so immeasurable. Whether he knows it or not, I will always remember that young man, because his main goal in life was to make a difference. He wants to serve our country, and his pride and patriotism are to be admired. He has the courage to make his voice be heard, and he has the courage to stand up for the things he believes in. Will your voice be heard just like his was? What will you do to be remembered? Contemplating these questions takes me back to my Grandpa E.T. He was an amazing guy, and even though my time with Grandpa came to an end when I was only 4 years old, I don't know how many times I've heard from others. You know, your Grandpa, he was one heck of a guy. He was a great person for our town and community, and you would make him so proud. I just know he's smiling down, beaming with joy because of the young woman you've become. Now, Grandpa was on the school board for a number of years and was a highly respected man in our church and community. Grandpa may not have been a man of a whole lot of words, but when he did talk, everyone listened. And not everyone may have liked or most certainly agreed with what Grandpa had to say, but everyone respected him, including myself. And I don't know how many times hearing that makes me realize that Grandpa really was somebody. Whether he was telling an old fishing tale or speaking on the behalf of the community, his voice was heard. He didn't live his life for the glory or fame. He impacted lives and left a legacy in our hometown that most can only dream. His legacy was left in the presence of stories. Now, I don't know about you, but whenever I was little, my grandparents told me stories all the time. And aside from the ones we've all heard, like when I was a kid, I walked 10 miles to school uphill both ways. Or when I was a kid, we didn't have televisions or smartphones. Here's one of the stories Grandpa shared with me. It was quite a few years ago, and there were 3 fishermen named Peter, James, and John who were out on the boat just trying to make a living. They had been in a fishing drought and had no idea how they were going to make their income for the year. They had been out on the boat all night long, but they had no idea what the day had to come. Now there was a man sitting on the shore talking to a huge group of people, and he looked over and saw these 3 men cleaning their nets and saw how frustrated they were. So he decided to go over and offer to help to fish with them that day. The 3 men thought he was crazy because they hadn't caught a thing, but they decided it was worth a try. So as they got back out on the water and got farther out to throw out their nets, the man told them to hold on for a minute and keep going farther. So as they went farther in the water, the man finally told them to throw out their nets. And whenever he told them, as soon as they did so, fish started coming from all directions. It was amazing. Their nets began breaking from the weight of so many fish, and their boats were overflowing and they were even sinking. Now, when Peter realized what had happened, he fell to his knees in awe and gratefulness because he realized he was a part of a plan greater than his own. That fishing trip changed all of their lives forever. From that day on, that man who was named Jesus and his disciples traveled from country to country, spreading the greatest word to ever be spoken, the true word of God. And from that day forward, Peter, James, and John were not only fishermen in every sense of the word, but they became fishers of men. It's amazing to me how a single man could speak to a crowd of thousands and be heard. What was even more amazing is how he could speak to a crowd that big without a speaker system. But I came to realize that it wasn't how loud he spoke, it's what he said. Because what he said was spread from person to person throughout the world. Jesus wasn't afraid to stand up for the things he believed in and speak up. He wasn't worried about what other people were going to say. That didn't matter to him. What mattered is that he spoke what was true and right. And his life and death on the cross saves each of us from our own sin and wrongdoing and gives us the peace of knowing we'll have forever eternity in heaven with God as long as we believe. As long as we have the faith and belief to stand up for things, the impossible becomes possible. Now, I know that if Grandpa could have met my friend with the vote card, he would have touched and inspired that young man. But the bottom line is, he couldn't. But I could hear his voice telling me, "This one's all yours, Boo. Go get him." Just like Grandpa's voice still sticks with me, Jesus' voice was heard. His disciples became fishers of men, and their voices were heard. What will you do to be remembered? And the people that change who we are, like my grandpa, never leave our side. I don't know about you, but I want to be that person for someone else, because I know what it's like to have that influence in my own life. What will you do to be remembered? Will you be remembered for your personality or your beliefs? What legacy are you going to leave? We need to stand up for what's right and what we believe in. Maybe you stand up to that bully at school. Maybe you're that holding hand for someone when things turn sour. No matter the cost or what others say, anything is possible when you have the courage to use your voice. I challenge you to stand up for the things you believe in and speak up for what you love. Be honorable, be humble, be you. Be someone others can look up to and someone to be remembered. Be that somebody who has the courage to use your voice to stand up and speak out. Because Illinois FFA,